Oh, wow. Wow. Taz Taylor. Hey, man, what's up? What's going on? Welcome to RockEyez, man.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to connect. Yeah, we got a brand new album out, "The Other Side of Midnight" by Taz Taylor Band.
Uh-huh.
Came out what about 2 weeks ago,
Right.
May 14th.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. And let's tell me a little bit about your label, how you started it and stuff like that.
Well, the label, it's just it's just my own label.
Right.
Had to register it obviously as a doing business as and have it all kind of legit.
Right.
And we've been with the Taz Taylor Band. I mean, this is our eighth album, and let me see. Some of those were on, labels. We had Welcome to America that was on Escape, and we followed that up with Straight Up that was on Escape, and then we went fully instrumental. So that was when I started my own label because it's instrumental rock. It's more of a niche. It's a little
Right.
harder to sell that to a label. And then we came back to Escape Music with Pressure and Time,
Uh-huh.
and then we went to Global Rock with Nocturnal.
Right. Yeah.
And with this one, to be honest, I I went independent on my own label for The Other Side of Midnight. A lot of people might think, well, you should have kind of hung in there and shopped it with a label.
Uh-huh.
But we had a couple of offers, but both of them were just for digital only, for just
Oh, yeah.
streaming only.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't want to do that. And it's still left me with the option to do the physical release on my own label if I wanted to.
Right.
And I thought, well, if I'm going to do the physical release on my own label, I may as well just keep all of the rights and
Right.
do the digital on my own label as well.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, there's not really much of a story there behind the label. The only music my label's ever released is my own.
You believe I never did a download or digital ever.
Yeah, you know what?
Ever.
I only just opened a Spotify account just a
Uh-huh.
couple of weeks ago just to look at my own stuff to make sure it's all there.
Right. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
I've ne I've never used it, but
Yeah.
I can see why people do like the convenience.
Right.
But it always amazes me when I speak to people that are like my age or thereabouts, and
Uh-huh.
they go, "Oh yeah, CDs. I used to have thousands of those," and I'm like, "Well, I don't understand that the used to have. I mean, where did they
Right.
go?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
threw them away or something? This is your
Right.
music collection." And people say, "Well, I didn't have anything to play them on anymore." And
Yeah.
I'm still confused. I'm like, "Well, why not?"
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
I get it if you're 22 and you only grew up with the streaming and the downloads. But when
Right.
it's people our age and they say, "Oh yeah, I used to have those," well,
Uh-huh.
where do they go? What?
Yeah. Definitely.
I guess I'm definitely a dinosaur.
Right. Yeah. Matter of fact, the computers now don't even have drives for
Mine
for
does.
for a
Mine
CD.
actually has. Yeah, mine actually has a CD drive. It's this computer's probably 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
old.
Well,
Maybe it was just on the very end.
I bought an external, so like I'm still happy,
Yeah,
So plug it in and still get to listen to it. And I still got a CD player in my car,
me
you know.
too. I have two cars, and they both have that. They're both old enough to have to have
Yeah,
CD players.
definitely, definitely. So this new album, tell me about this lineup you got recording this album and stuff. You got amazing people on this album.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I mean, going back to what I said before about we've done a lot of stuff where we've been, fully instrumental, guitar, bass, drums, and sometimes keyboards. And I'll have to go back one album prior to this one because it'll make the story make sense. In that we did the Nocturnal record and we had like five guest singers.
Right.
So we got Mark Bowles on three songs. We got David Reese on three songs. We got Graham Bonnet on one, who we'd worked with in the past. We got Doogie White on there, and we got a guy by the name of Chandler Mogul on there, who's an excellent vocalist.
Very,
And
very
so,
good. Very good. Actually,
y-
um, he comes to my house every once in a while.
oh, really? That's
Yeah.
cool.
And
Yeah,
I go to his house. Sometimes
yeah,
he got a new video coming out and he wants me to
yeah,
see it before, he's a great guy.
exactly. Yeah,
Great
yeah,
guy,
he is.
you know?
And so we got that album, and it wasn't that unusual a thing for us because we've had guest vocalists before, but they've done a complete record with us. Whereas
Right.
this was, hey, let's just do a record where the core of the band is us, and then we'll have like 5 guest vocalists. So we did that. We were very happy with the album, and I was confident. I was just like, hey, we'll just find a local guy that can sing this stuff live.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't think it would be that much of an issue. And what I thought was kind of cool was having 5 guest vocalists. If none of those guys were available, let's say we had a tour, and
Right.
none of those guys could do the tour, we could just get someone else that was, capable to
Right.
do it, and it wouldn't look like, oh yeah, that lineup didn't last again,
Right.
because it
Yeah.
wouldn't matter, because it's clear that there's 5 of them. There's only
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
one guy doing. So it takes away that idea of like the lineup didn't last.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
funny thing was, we couldn't find anyone that could sing the songs.
Wow.
You got
Yeah.
5 world-class vocalists on there, and it
Hmm.
turned out that world-class was more than just a catchy line.
Right. Yeah.
And everyone we reached out to, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'd love to do that. Send me a couple of tracks." I'd send them a couple of tracks. 15 minutes later, sorry, dude, I can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
And
Wow.
so, we decided to turn to a local girl instead. And
Cool.
Laura Vreeland was the only female vocalist that I reached out to, and she was like, "Yeah, that sounds really exciting. Send me a couple of songs." Sent her a couple of songs. 15 minutes later, she emails me back. She was singing along. She'd already written out all the lyrics,
Hmm.
and so we had a CD release show. And we didn't even call it an audition. We just had 2 rehearsals, and she killed it. And
Right.
so this was 3 years ago.
Wow.
So that's what makes this album a little bit special, in that this is the first time that there's been a Taz Taylor band album with a vocalist who's actually in the band and
Right.
has been in the band. I mean, she's been in the band for 3 years by the time the record came out.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
So so that explains her part in this. And you said there's an outstanding lineup. Well, it was kind of funny because last year, I mean, not even this year, but March of last year was when I started working on the record.
Hmm.
And I hadn't planned to make a record last year. All I wanted to do was play shows. I wasn't really thinking about making a record. But in the first half of last year, we just really didn't have anything going on. Everyone was busy, prior commitments. And once it got to around March, I realized, man, we're not going to be gigging until May or June, because shows out at minimum of 3 months, 4 months out anyway. I was
Right.
like, I'm losing half the year.
Uh-huh.
And I went to the UK for a week, and I saw Alcatraz
Hmm.
um, playing in Wolverhampton or Birmingham. I think it was in Birmingham. And Doogie White was still in the band at that time. And as you know, Doogie
Right.
was in Rainbow, like in the mid to late 90s.
Hmm.
And he'd fallen in love with the song Temple of the King from the first Rainbow album.
Hmm.
So whoever he performs with these days, they tend to play that song.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, what a killer song! And when I came home, I would start my morning every day. I put the coffee on, I grabbed my acoustic guitar, and I'd be noodling around. And I was like, oh, Temple of the King. By the third day, I'd learnt the song, got the arrangement and everything down, and I was thinking, man, Laura would just crush this.
Hmm.
So the band wasn't doing anything. Like I said, everyone had prior commitments. So I wrote one more piece that turned into the title track. And I went into the studio and I recorded all of the guitars, the acoustic guitars and the electric guitars, to Temple of the King and The Other Side of Midnight, just to a click track.
Right.
And I sent those tracks to the drummer Matt Starr,
Hmm.
because we've been talking for years. And he sent those back. And it was right around that time that Alessandro Del Vecchio
Hmm.
sent me a Facebook friend request. And I was thinking, wow. I mean, I knew exactly who Alessandro was.
Yeah.
And, for those that don't, for years, he was like the in-house guy at Frontiers.
Hmm.
And, he produced a lot of those records, and he wrote a lot of the songs for a lot of those project bands like Revolution Saints and things like that. And I think I was wondering, well, how does he know about me? And I think probably because he's good friends with Matt. I think
Hmm.
he'd probably said to Matt, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" And
Right.
he
Yeah.
probably mentioned my project. So anyway, so I wrote Alessandro back, and I said, would you like to collaborate on some songs? And he wrote back, absolutely. And so
Hmm.
over the next few weeks, we wrote like 5 songs,
Wow.
and he played the keyboards and the drums in his studio in Italy. And then I recorded all of the guitars, and my longtime bass player Barney Firks, he played the bass. So between those 5 and the 2 I'd already done with Matt, I'm like, within no time, I'm like, wow, I've got 3/4 of an album here, and I
Cool.
wasn't even thinking about making a record this year.
Wow.
I
Wow.
got 3/4 of a record made, and
Cool.
so we ended up doing 3 covers. We did "Temple of the King" by Rainbow, and we did "California Dreaming," which is a
Hmm.
very odd choice for us,
Right.
and "Desert Song,"
Right. Yeah.
the
Cool. Cool.
MSG song.
Wow.
And there we had 46 minutes of music, which was too long to get onto a vinyl record. Had
Right.
to had to cut California Dreaming out of it to get it onto vinyl.
Wow. Wow. I know I was watching the video and it's funny. I would say not right. The last three interviews I did all had Alexandro on there.
That's crazy.
I did an interview with Alexandro about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Okay, for our channel RockEyez,
yeah.
right? And now I'm watching yours and I'm saying, holy shit, he's there again. You know, right? Everything
Is
I
that,
watch,
that
he's
he is
in.
he's the hardest working man in music.
Right? I mean,
I mean,
keyboard, singing, producing, you know.
I know it's crazy. When you look at his discography, I mean, I've never actually looked it up, but I mean, he produced Blue Oyster Cult and wrote
Right,
songs for that album. He had like a Billboard hit for one of those songs. And
right.
I mean, I first came across his name. I mentioned Revolution Saints. I think that was the first time I saw his name on something. I'm thinking, oh man, who's this Alessandro guy?
Yeah,
He played all the keyboards, he produced the album, and he wrote all of the songs.
right,
I
right.
mean, and the players in that band, I mean, you're talking Doug Aldrich, Jack
Yeah.
Blade.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and the oh my God, the drummer that was in Queen for a while. Um,
Uh,
he has a fantastic singing voice. Ah,
uh,
I can't think of his name, but I mean, it's a superstar band.
right,
But
yeah.
Alessandro was writing all the songs and playing the keyboards and producing, and so that was why I was so thrilled to get that Facebook friend request. And like I said, just a few weeks later, we'd written 5 songs.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
So if somebody was going to go into music, what would you tell them the pros and the cons about music?
Um, Obviously, I would say do it because you love it. If it's not something that you just want to get up and do every single day, regardless of quote unquote success, because really the success is just in pleasing yourself. You
Right,
know, I mean, to make a living at it, it's obviously getting harder and harder. With each passing year,
right,
and I always think it's funny when you're looking at like forums, or you're watching YouTube, or you're on Facebook, and someone will refer to an extremely famous guitar player as an
right.
example and say, "Oh, this guy's so underrated," and I'm like, "Really?"
Uh-huh.
the,
Yeah,
yeah, the guy just can't get a gig, can he? If we've
yeah,
heard of him, he's not underrated. The
right,
the, the percentage chances of you making a living in music, playing your own original music, are
right,
so minuscule.
right. Yeah,
So if you're pointing to a guy that we have all heard of and he's touring the world playing his own music, he's absolutely not underrated. He's in the
right,
top percentile of people.
right. Yeah,
So I
yeah,
would say just do it because you love it and you're driven to do it. That would be my advice. And in that case, you're always a winner.
right. Yeah. Wow, wow. Is everything still for bands touring and merchandise? Because you get no money from records and stuff like that usually.
Yeah, it's become, musicians have become t-shirt salesmen, really,
Right, yeah,
to put it in a nutshell. And that's why I always think it's funny when people complain about concert prices. They say, "Oh man, tickets like, $200 or $400." I can remember when this same show would have been like, $15.
yeah.
And everyone tries to look for a million different reasons to blame it on. And I
Right,
always say it's because everyone stopped buying music. Everyone stopped buying recorded music. That's why concert tickets are $400. It's
right,
not
yeah.
that complicated.
Uh-huh.
That's
Definitely.
it. The biggest bands in the world used to tour for break even or even a loss. The tour was just to advertise the album.
Yeah.
bands as big as Pink Floyd toured hoping to break even on their tour
Right. Yeah.
because they were selling a bazillion records. The
Uh-huh.
tour was just a marketing campaign. But now the tour is the only way they make money.
Right. Yeah.
And, and hotels and tour buses and planes, they're expensive.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
we don't even have a record store around here no more.
it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything you got to buy online now.
yeah,
It kind
yeah.
of sucks. I like going flipping through the albums,
Me
and
too. Yeah, me too.
and there's nothing
Yeah,
here no more.
yeah. I
Nothing.
still buy CDs. I don't mind the fact that I'm just, clicking on them on Amazon and they're showing up in 2 days. I do miss record stores, but
Right.
as long as you can actually still buy them, I
Right.
just think it's sad that a lot of people don't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
You
True.
know,
True.
I
True.
mean, I like the immediacy of the streaming thing, but if I listen to something on YouTube or like I said, I only just joined Spotify a couple of weeks ago. If I
Right.
listen to something on there, if I genuinely like it, I've still got to buy the CD.
Right. Yeah.
I don't feel satisfied by listening to the stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
it's
Wow. So, do you have any merchandise you like to talk about where people could pick it up?
well, like as far as merchandise is concerned, let's talk about the album. I mean, the album is available on
Right.
CD
Hmm.
and on 180-gram vinyl. You can just go to Amazon and it's 2 clicks away.
Cool. Cool.
Other than that, the only merchandise we've ever done is T-shirts,
Uh-huh.
and we usually just sell those at our shows.
Right. Yeah.
But the CD and the vinyl, The Other Side of Midnight, it's right there on
Mhm.
Amazon.
Cool.
Or
Cool.
if you're in Europe, it's at Pride and Joy Music,
Right.
and that'll ship from Germany.
Cool.
So that won't cost you too much on the shipping.
Cool. Cool.
As
What's your
far as Amazon,
Okay.
go ahead.
What's your feeling about meet and greets?
Um, I've never done like a paid meet and greet, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
It seems I don't know. I understand that those bands need it to cover the day-to-day costs of touring.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think I would ever pay to do a meet and greet myself, you
Right.
know.
Uh-huh.
And I mean I've met most of my heroes because as a band we've opened for so many of them,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. So I just meet them at sound check and it's a much more genuine kind of
Right.
a
Yeah.
meeting, you know.
Yeah.
But but I understand that like the mid-level bands that
Right.
that do that when they're touring for weeks or even months at a time, if they can make a couple of $1,000 extra per day
Mhm.
out of 20 people wanting to do a meet and greet,
Right.
I get that puts diesel in the bus and pays for the hotels and everyone's got to eat.
Yep. Definitely.
I
Definitely.
mean, I get it, you
Cool.
know.
Cool. So, who's your favorite guitarist?
Um, it's hard to pin it down to one,
Uh-huh.
but
Well,
my
give me a
my
couple.
yeah, my earliest influences were definitely Gary Moore,
Uh-huh.
Michael Schenker, Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen,
Hmm.
and then a little bit later, Nuno Bettencourt.
Hmm.
And those are still my. I always think of Gary Moore, Michael Schenker, and Randy Rhoads as my influences, and then
Right.
I think people like Nuno and Ingve as inspiration
Right.
rather than influences. And the reason I say that is if I were to tell people, oh yeah, Yngwie Malmsteen's an influence,
Right.
everyone would be like, no, dude, you can't play like that. so, so I don't call him an influence, I call him an inspiration.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. 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 Do you
Yeah.
like you enjoy touring?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do it a lot more. We've only really done, three kind of extensive tours,
Right.
and I'd like to do it more, but I think at this point in time, I think we're just playing in California. You know, I mean, I remember touring. I mean, we were playing like in Budapest and Prague, and Vienna, and it's just a great experience. I mean, I definitely didn't do it long enough to reach burnout point.
Right.
I just loved bus life. Just waking up on the bus and not knowing where you are and
Right.
new city, new sound guy, new people, and just the troubadour thing. Just the
Right.
wandering minstrel. It's and you in a cocoon, just you and your bandmate, and a tiny little crew, and nothing else matters. You're in a bubble. You're
Right,
disconnected from reality for weeks at a time, and I like that.
right. Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So, what was your first concert, and did it make any kind of impact on you?
First concert I ever went to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was White Snake on
Uh-huh.
their Come and Get It tour. That was like the old school White Snake.
Right. Yeah.
Bernie Marsden and Mickey Moody on guitars,
Uh-huh.
Ian Pace on drums, Neil Murray on bass, John Lord on B3, and of course Davey Coverdale.
Right. Yeah.
And that was at Bingley Hall in Staffordshire in the UK.
Mhm.
And obviously I was in high school. I would have been, I don't know, 13 or something, 13, 14 years old. And next concert after that was Rainbow on their Difficult to Cure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. So, if you had a choice between vinyl, cassette, CD, and download, which one would you pick?
You know what? I'd probably say CD. I love CDs,
Uh-huh.
but but it is funny because this is the first record that I've put out on a vinyl record,
Right. Yeah.
and it's surreal. I've only had the chance to actually spin it 3 times because I don't have a turntable. And it's it's surreal, and it's like, I mean, think about it. When you're 13, 14 years old, you're
Right.
playing
Yeah.
guitar, you're a kid, you dream of being in a band, you dream of being a rock star, and you
Right. Yeah.
dream of making a record because
Right.
that's what's normal at the time.
Right.
And then of course by the time I'm playing reasonably well and I'm in a band and you get to record, vinyl records have gone away.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
make so you're making CDs instead, and
Yeah.
that's fine. It didn't matter because that was what was normal at the time. I love
Right.
CDs, but it's so funny that because they've come back, we put this new album on vinyl, and I'm like, holy crap! I have a vinyl record that's me, and putting that on the turntable and watching it go around and listening to my music coming out of the speakers, it's
Right.
surreal. I mean,
Right.
it's like goosebumps, you know?
Yeah, it got to be amazing just having that feeling of having that album, and in your hands and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now
because
they're coming out with all colored vinyls and like all
yeah,
kinds of weird stuff, you know?
yeah. Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, like I said, we mentioned earlier, doing this without a label, it's
uh-huh.
like everything's independent. So, like, every decision is mine, and that's kind of
Right,
cool.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, you look at all of the options, and I was like, well, I don't want to do the gatefold sleeve,
uh-huh.
and I don't want to do the inserts. I just want it to be like a vinyl record that I would have bought back in the old day, where you
Right,
got the cover art on the front, and you got all of the credits and everything on the back. There's no room for the lyrics,
right,
and I invested the extra money rather than having it inserted with all of that stuff in the 180-gram vinyl.
right, yeah,
And I've actually only personally unwrapped 3 of them and put them on a turntable
uh-huh.
in 3 different people's houses, and every single one of them was completely flat. No wobble in the wall because it's such a heavy slab of vinyl.
Right,
You
yeah,
know, we put the extra money into the actual product. The
right, yeah,
packaging is still nice, don't get me wrong. It's
right,
just
yeah.
it's not a gatefold, or there's no extra inserts, but it's still beautiful.
Cool, cool. What are some of the pictures behind you?
Oh, let me see. Let me see if I can go walkabout with my camera. Oh, actually, I can't move very far
Right,
because
yeah.
there's a
I see
USB
some.
cable.
I see Ozzy, Randy Rhodes.
Yeah, well, it's that picture right there. That's a stretch canvas, and the paint is acrylic paint, and my wife
Uh-huh.
painted that. That's a one-off piece of art painted by my wife.
Cool.
And then the other one is Michael Schenker from the Unforgiven live album, again
Right,
painted by
yeah.
my wife.
Uh-huh.
And all of the other stuff, those are actually show posters.
Cool.
Um,
They're
like that
great to
one
have.
right there. You got Eric Johnson and Mike Stern, we opened.
Uh-huh.
Dokken, we opened. Uli John Roth, we opened. Lynch Mob, we opened. And of course, there's a few guitars here too.
Cool. Cool. When you were younger, did you collect anything?
Um, nah, not really.
Yeah.
I Now that I'm older, I do. I collect Jimi Hendrix t-shirts,
Uh-huh.
hats, and Gibson Explorers.
Cool, 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 cool. So what do you have planned for the rest of the year?
Well, this Saturday we're opening for Pat Travers
Uh-huh.
at Ramona Main Stage in Ramona, And then a couple of weeks after that, we got a couple of local shows. One at McGuffey's Live in like La Mesa, San Diego. Week after that, we're playing at the Bornemann Theater in San Marcos, opening for Prong. The no, not Prong, Gong, not Prong, Gong. The late '60s, '70s psychedelic
Right, yeah.
guys,
Uh-huh.
psychedelic. And July 3rd was kicking off the 4th of July weekend. We're playing at the Coach House in San Juan
Right.
Capistrano.
Mhm.
We got a show in August at Full Circle Saloon in Santee. We're opening for Spread Eagle in
Cool.
November, and we're opening for Gary Hoey in
Uh,
December. And we're going to be filling in others in between those. That's all just what we have on the calendar right now.
Cool, cool, cool. Well,
Yeah.
Taz, it was great talking to you. Congratulations on the other side of midnight.
Thank you.
Make sure the fans pick it up, or at least go check out the video, check out the tunes, pick up the CD, pick up the album. You know,
Yeah. Oh,
you
and
know.
I should mention the vinyl.
Uh-huh.
It is limited edition. Up in the
Right.
top right corner on the back, it says, limited 180-gram vinyl, and then it's got the of 500. And I just cut open the shrink wrap there and write in the number. They're all
Cool.
individually hand numbered.
People like that.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
do. They do.
yeah.
Especially if they get like a low number, they're like excited and
I know
stuff.
it's funny. One of my best friends, and for weeks and weeks leading up to it, he was like, "I got to be in the single digits,"
Uh,
and every time I was like, I don't think I can do it. I
uh,
got I got these band members. I got the lady that runs my website. I'm going through all the different people. I was like, the best I can do is 11.
uh,
and,
they
and
should
then
be
we
happy.
but no, when we went up to his house, like 2 days after the record came out, we went up there, and he's grilling the steaks and everything, and we got the fire pit going, and
Uh,
I give him the record. I gave him number 9.
oh, that's good.
I've never seen it because for weeks I'd been like, no, I can't get you in single digits. I'm sorry.
Wow, 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 wow. That's pretty good. Number nine's good.
Number
You know,
9.
yes, definitely, definitely. So, Taz, it was great talking to you. Would you like to say anything to the fans out there?
Um, just thank you for your support, and check us out online. And it's funny, people always come up to me and they say, well, where's your music available? And I
Uh,
always say, well, where do you usually listen to music? As
yeah.
much as I'm not into the streaming thing myself,
Uh,
if you it's everywhere.
right,
If you wherever you usually listen to music, it's there. And if
right,
you purchase music from Amazon, it's there in the US. And if you're in Europe and you want to purchase the CD, Pride and Joy Music,
great,
and that ships from Germany.
great,
But
great. Cool, cool. Thanks a lot, Taz.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.